If I had to choose between Halo 4 and Gears of War 4, I would pick Halo 4. Can't change my mind about that. Batman Arkham Origins is a game that I genuinely don't understand why it gets hated on. It's one of the better games in the series. I enjoy it more than Arkham City. Combat's more fun. I love the Christmas atmosphere style. The boss fights are definitely a step up over the previous games, having one of my favorite boss fights in the series. So yeah, even to this day, I still question why this game gets so much hate. BioShock 2, to me, is probably the best one out of all three of the BioShock games. And one game that I wish deserved to get talked about a lot. I don't see no one talking about it. It's a shame. I like the story, and I like where the game goes with it. Sure, it has some, similarities to BioShock 1, but I definitely would say it's the better game. I don't like Minecraft. I don't like this game. Hotland from Undertale is one of my favorite level sections in the game. Yeah, it can get annoying when Alpha is constantly calling you, but it didn't bother me that much. I did find some sense of humor with the dialogue. And the music, for the most part, is great. Can't change my mind about that. Mega Man X4 is a game I have mixed qualities on. I do love the story of the game, I do love the gameplay, and the bosses are definitely really good. The level designs, however, some of the levels don't really do it for me, and my issue with the bosses, while they're great, are total jokes for the most part. Some of them are just pretty easy to deal with, and the soundtrack for me personally, there is some good, but at the most time I couldn't jam out to a lot of the OST from the game. I just really couldn't. If I had to choose between Fall of Cybertron and Devastation, Transformers Devastation would be on top. Fall of Cybertron is great, but Devastation to me is where I really loved it, and it's something that a real Transformers fan would want. Seriously, it's something that I've definitely wanted for a long time. Cars 2 is an interesting movie. I kind of like it for the most part. Sure, there are some annoyances here and there, and I can definitely understand why some people say it's bad, but it's the bad that it's good kind of movie for me. So I still enjoy it for some of the action scenes and stuff, and the villain's pretty good. If you were to ask me which Pixar movie I would consider to be the worst and my least favorite, here's your answer. I have a few guilty pleasure games that I would be interested in sharing out. Resident Evil 6 is a game that I definitely enjoyed. It's understandable why some people hate it. The story isn't really that confusing for the most part. Yes, it gets annoying to replay sections, but to be fair, you only get to replay the sections 2 times. That's better than replaying the same 6 levels 8 times. Looking at you, Sonic Rivals 2. And I definitely did like some of the character arcs that they went with it. However, Ada's campaign is my least favorite. Dead Rising 4 is a game that I understand the hate, but I do love the Christmas atmosphere. It definitely gives me that, and it's fun mowing down zombies as usual. But it's understandable why the story is pretty forgettable and the boss fights are all forgettable as well. Call of Duty's Advanced Warfare is a game that definitely been forgotten by many people, but I still enjoy it. For some reason, I still remember most of the characters. I had fun with survival mode with my brother, and I definitely kind of like it. I would put it up there with one of my most guilty pleasure games I've ever played. However, if you were to ask me which Call of Duty game I consider the worst, Call of Duty Ghost. Enough said. LEGO Indiana Jones 2 is a game that I still scratch my head to this day, because it's considered to be the worst LEGO game ever made. If you were to ask me, the worst one has to be the LEGO Movie video game. That game was boring. This one is fun. There's some fun stuff to be had with the game. I grew up with it, and I never understood why it got so much hate. Oh well. Diablo 3 is a game that I definitely enjoyed so much. I love mowing down enemies, playing as all the characters, and gotten some good experience with the story. To me, it's 10 times better than Minecraft Dungeons, because at least with that game, I didn't have a dull and boring time, and I didn't have to deal with one of the most stupidest final bosses ever. Diablo 3 has the better final boss. Sonic 3D Blast is a game that I definitely had some enjoyment. I did like the soundtrack. My favorite is Rusty Ruins Act 1 for the Genesis version. And it was interesting to see some 3D aspect, although 3D Sonic games that came out way later on did the 3D aspect better, but I definitely liked it. Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex is a game that, yeah, I can definitely see why some people don't like it. Some of the levels can be annoying. I genuinely don't like the vehicle levels. Well, most of them anyway. The underwater levels kind of suck, and the boss lineup is pretty mediocre, with the final boss being the only good boss in the game. But I still had some enjoyment with some of the levels and such, and had some good fun with it. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon is the best Far Cry out of all of them that I played. Like, this one is fun. I enjoyed the sense of humor. I liked the game's art style. I definitely had some fun with this one a lot more than any other game. And for a DLC pack, I'm impressed that it had something going for it. Also, the soundtrack is pretty good. But you wanna know my biggest criticism with this game? It's too freaking short. You could beat this game in about like 6 to 5 hours. It's that freaking short. Made me wish there was a sequel. I don't like Roblox. I genuinely don't like this game. I didn't have fun with it, and I genuinely don't care for it. Moving on. Plants vs. Zombies 2, another game that I genuinely don't like. On one hand, there's some good stuff about it, but on the other hand, no. Most of the soundtrack is pretty forgettable. The gameplay suffers with huge difficulty spikes in a lot of the levels, and it gets repetitive and boring to play because there are 14 worlds in the entire game. That gets tiresome very fast, and you have to rely on powerful plants to even get past some of the levels. And the most annoying part is, some of the plants have to be purchased with money, microtransactions. It's stupid. I genuinely hate this game. Although I would say Battle for Neighborville is 10 times worse. Mega Man 01 is the game that I have a love and hate relationship with. I do love the gameplay, and it does have an interesting story, and some of the boss fights are fun. Only 3! The rest of the game suffers with issues like a forgettable villain. The boss fights, the other fights so far range from being too easy and pathetic, and frustratingly annoying for the worst part. And the leveling up system. You basically have to do some level grinding in order to make some of your weapons, like, slightly good or even better for the most part. I genuinely don't like this game, but I definitely don't hate it as much as X6 and X7. My playthrough was muddied after the first legit boss of the game. But that's all I can pretty much say. Okay, thank you for tuning in. Thank you. Bye. Goodbye. Thanks.